What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. King Ryan Garcia did an interview with TMZ.com. You know, he's really feeling himself right now. You know, he's fresh off a victory over Luke Campbell, 7th round knockout, hit him with a beautiful body shot as Luke Campbell anticipated him hitting him with a headshot, and he dropped it to the body, caught him right there on the liver, and Luke Campbell could not recover, could not beat the count. And Luke Campbell lost another big step-up fight. You know, he's 0-2 when he steps up in competition. Lost to Linares, lost to Lomachenko, and now lost to Ryan Garcia. But Ryan Garcia is really feeling himself, really feeling himself. He was on TMZ, and he said when they asked him about a potential matchup with Gervonta Tank Davis, he said, I'm going to knock out Gervonta in 2 rounds. He said he's going to knock him out in 2 rounds. 2nd round knockout is what Ryan Garcia said. And then he called Gervonta Davis a bitch. Gervonta Davis responded and said, you ain't never known me to be a bitch. He said, you talked to me 10 minutes before you came out into the ring to fight Luke Campbell. You know, so the fight already been made, so just be ready. He said, I ain't the one to do all the talking. He said, I'd rather let the violence do the talking. That violence that I put on people inside that ring, I'd rather that do the talking than me get on Instagram or get on Twitter and go back and forth with Ryan Garcia. He said he's gonna let he rather settle it with violence than settle it with words. It's basically what Gervonta Tank Davis said. And everybody's getting excited. Everybody's like, oh man, I can't wait for this matchup, man. This is a big time matchup. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight in 2021. You know, Ryan Garcia also said that this is the fight everybody want to see. You know, this fight and Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury are the 2 fights everybody want to see in 2021. He said Joshua needs to fight Fury, and I need to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. That's what he said. He basically put this fight up there on the same pedestal as Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. Now I have to say that, look, you know, Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury is a big fight in the UK. It's not a big fight in the United States. He actually right. Tank, well, he ain't actually right. They both on the same level as far as Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia is a big fight in the United States of America. It's probably the biggest fight in the United States of America. You know, I know people going to say, wait a minute, what are you talking about, JB Sports? What about Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford? Terrence Crawford don't have no fan base outside of Omaha. You know, outside of the state of Nebraska, I give him the state of Nebraska. Outside of the state of Nebraska, he has no big fan base. Errol Spence Jr. got a big fan base. You know, he's got a big fan base in Texas, and he's shown to be a pay-per-view star. But he doesn't have the crossover appeal, say, that Ryan Garcia has with his followers that follow him on Instagram. And Gervonta Tank Davis, look at who follow him on Instagram. They both have well over 1 million Instagram followers. They have well over 1 million Twitter followers. So both of these guys are crossed over. You've seen entertainers at Gervonta Tank Davis's fight. You've seen him talk with, he did an interview with Snoop Doggy Dogg, him and Mayweather. He's had a lot of celebrities at his fight. When he fought Yorkers Gamboa, he had a lot of celebrities from Atlanta that was in attendance at that fight. You look at Ryan Garcia, he said he spoke with LeBron James on Twitter before he fought Luke Campbell. He's had a lot of celebrities following him. So those guys have what you call the cachet as far as bringing in the casual fans. The hardcore boxing fans going to be there regardless. But they both shown that they can bring in the casual boxing fans. So that's why I'm saying that fight actually is bigger than Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis is actually bigger than Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford. Because you're looking at both guys that can appeal to the casual fan. And Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford, you got one guy that is appealing to the casual boxing fan, and that's Errol Spence Jr. Terrence Crawford's not bringing in nothing but the hardcore boxing fan. He's a laid back guy. He chills. He likes to go fishing. You know, he's a family man. Nothing wrong with that. But he doesn't, he doesn't speak. He doesn't say anything controversial. He's not out here on YouTube making controversial statements. He's not showing up. He showed up at the last Errol Spence fight, but he didn't, I don't know if he tried to get in the ring. They didn't let him in the ring, but he's got the, at least, if you can't get in the ring, you got the bum rush the press conference. Bum rush the press conference after the fight. Errol Spence is going to say, look here, man, I want you. Pull Antonio Tarver when he bum rushed Roy Jones Jr. press conference after Roy Jones Jr. beat Ruiz. He bum rushed him, and then Roy Jones fought him next. Take a page out of Adriano Lara. he bum rushed Canelo Alvarez's press conference after he defeated Alfredo Ngula. And guess what? He got to fight next against Canelo Alvarez. That's what Terrence Crawford's got to do. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. And I'm here to tell you that the fight is not going to be next. Because this fight here, you want fans at this fight. You want full capacity fans. You don't want to have it where they got to scale it down to 25% instead of 75,000. I'm just saying this for example. I ain't saying 75,000 is going to be there, but just say 75,000 seat stadium for the fight, but you got to scale it down 25%. And all you can have is 20,000 fans max at the fight. You don't want to do that when you can maybe wait till the summer, late summer, when hopefully this vaccine will be spread among the masses here in the United States, and we have maybe 80 to 90% immune ratio. Then we can start having close to full capacity, if not all the way full capacity crowds at events. So I'm looking for this fight to take place maybe September at the earliest. I can see that fight taking place in September at the earliest. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. And I think what both guys need to do is both guys need to have an interim fight, but not a tune-up fight. I'm talking about fight a good opponent, and both guys fight on pay-per-view. Ryan Garcia next fight need to be on the zone pay-per-view. He's gonna fight. I've been hearing Jorge Linares. If that fight comes to fruition, I'm hearing he's the front runner to fight Ryan Garcia next. They make that fight. You put that fight on the zone pay-per-view. Okay. The first fight that they did on the zone pay-per-view was Canelo Alvarez versus Callum Smith, and it was a flop. But I'm gonna put that partially on that they kind of rushed that fight. That fight only had like 4 weeks notice, and they didn't have the proper time to promote that fight, and even was found out later that the fight was going on pay-per-view. I think I heard about it going on pay-per-view like a week, 2 weeks before the fight actually was. They were saying, okay, it's gonna be on the zone pay-per-view for $64.99. That was like 2 weeks out. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they didn't have enough time to properly put it on pay-per-view and find out if it was going to be a successful pay-per-view. And they didn't give it a chance to be a successful pay-per-view, due to the limited time that they announced that it was going on pay-per-view. Now, this fight with Ryan Garcia versus Jorge Linares, they can put it on the zone pay-per-view. They can promote it, do the commercial, and do everything, and get him to do some good numbers with Jorge Linares. He's got a big following. He fought Linares, who's from Argentina. He's a guy that's known in boxing, especially to the hardcore boxing fan. He's a credible name. He's a former lightweight champion. So they can put that on pay-per-view, and I believe it'll do good numbers. And I think Gervonta Tank Davis, he need to do his second pay-per-view. Mayweather's CEO, President Leonard Ellerbe has said, look, once we go to pay-per-view, we're not looking to go back. We're looking to continue to do pay-per-view fights. So I think the best opponent for Gervonta Tank Davis would be Rolly Romero, a.k.a. Rolly. Rolly's been making a lot of waves out here on the YouTube. He's been saying, he's got the best of the top fighters in sparring. They've been talking about him and Ryan Garcia when they sparred, or when Rolly sparred Teofimo Lopez, and when Rolly sparred Gervonta Tank Davis. He's been getting making a lot of waves with about what happened in sparring. Did he get the best of them, or did they get the best of him? He's been doing a lot of talking, so he has a following. He's 12-0. He's ranked number 1 in the WBA. I don't know how he got that ranking off of 12 fights, and he really ain't beat nobody. From what I've seen, the fights I've seen, he ain't beat no top level opponents, but that's neither here nor there. He's ranked number 1. So he's 12-0. He's got a following. You put Rolly Romero versus Gervonta Tank Davis, you put that on Showtime pay-per-view. His last pay-per-view fight, which was his first pay-per-view fight, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz, that did very good numbers. It did close to 300,000 pay-per-view buys. And that fight had electric atmosphere in San Antonio, Texas, in the Alamo Dome. So he's shown to be a good draw. You put him in there with Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero is a guy that's a brash, likes to talk a lot of shit. He's got a great personality. He'll talk up the fight. He'll say things that what happened in sparring. Maybe that he got the best of Gervonta Tank Davis in sparring. He'll do a lot of talking. He'll be able to sell the fight. And Gervonta Tank Davis, who is not a big talker, he's not a big talker, but for a guy that has a huge following on social media, he's not a huge talker, but he'll have a good guy, a good sidekick to promote this fight in Rolly Romero. So I look for them two guys to have those two fights next, and get this fight just a little bit bigger, and then buy time for this vaccine to get in full effect across the United States, and hopefully by late summer. You know, again, we'll have like an 80, 90% immune ratio is what I think Dr. Fauci said. He predicted that it could be 80 to 90% immune ratio for the masses of people. And that would be a high rate of immunity. I think that will, lend itself to for that fight to take place later on in the summer, around September 2021, and both guys can do fights in the interim. Good fights, on pay-per-view. They can have crowds. Ryan Garcia can go back to Dallas and fight, or he can go to San Antonio, and Gervonta Tank Davis can do the same thing. Both guys should be fighting around the same time so they can be on the same schedule. I'm looking at these 2 months, either April or June. I heard Ryan Garcia talk about fighting on Cinco de Mayo, but that's not going to happen. That's Canelo Alvarez's date. He's a cash cow boxing. He's the guy that's going to do better numbers than anybody else, and they're not going to put another fighter to go against Canelo Alvarez. It's just like when Mayweather was at his apex. He had those dates. Other fighters were like, I'm going to fight on Cinco de Mayo. Even Canelo, that's a Mexican date. I need to fight on Cinco de Mayo. But Mayweather was a cash cow, and he had those 2 dates locked up, Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day. And that's the same goes to, in effect with Canelo Alvarez now that he's the cash cow of boxing. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But don't look for this fight next. Look for, again, Ryan Garcia versus Jorge Linares, the zone pay-per-view in April or June. And then in that same time frame, you look for Gervonta Tank Davis versus Raleigh Romero. And that fight will be on Showtime pay-per-view, either in April or June. One of those 2 months, and then you try to set up. If they're gonna fight in September, it'd be preferable if they fight in April, around the same time. Maybe Gervonta can fight maybe in the first week of April, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, or even 4 weeks later, you let Garcia fight at the end of April, and then you set up a big fight between those two guys in September of 2021. That's just my opinion on the situation. You let me know your thoughts, what you think how it should play out, how you think it should play out, not what you want to play out. Because everybody wants to see Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia next. But I'm here to tell you, to be more practical, the fight's not going to happen right now with not having full capacity of fans for a fight of that magnitude. So I'm looking for those guys that both do good, solid interim fights, and then meet up in the latter part of the summer of 2021, September to be exact. Let me know your thoughts about that scenario. Do you like that scenario, and you think that's how it's going to play out? Or you think the two guys are just going to go to their promoters and demand that they make the fight next, and they don't want to hear nothing about no fans? It's not all about the money. That's what Ryan Garcia said. It's not about making all the money. It's about legacy. So maybe both guys, jump up and down, holler and scream, pound the fist on the table and demand that their teams make the fight. Especially much shit that Ryan Garcia said. He called the man a bitch. Said he gonna knock him out in the second round, and basically called out Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Tank Davis responding and said, "Look, I ain't never been a bitch. You talked to me 10 minutes before the fight. The fight is already done. Let's just make it happen. I'm not the one to do all that talking. I'm all about the violence in the ring." It's basically what Gervonta Tank Davis said to Ryan Garcia in response to what he said, calling him out earlier in the day. So we'll see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts. Hit the like button if you like the content of this video, and help grow the channel, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. I holla.